Hey y'all, welcome back to New Slang. I'm music journalist Thomas Mooney, and this time around I am joined by Texas singer-songwriter Mason Lively. Mason has a new record out at the end of the week. That'd be Friday, March 19th. It is his second album and is a self-titled effort. So when he burst onto the scene back around, I guess it was around 2018 with his debut album, Stronger Ties, I felt he had just so much potential to turn into someone who was going to be turning heads going forward, and not to toot my own horn or anything or say that I can just spot anyone with a knack for songwriting or like that earnest will for the craft or anything, but Mason really makes me look smart with this record right here. Mason's definitely still a young and up-and-coming songwriter. Obviously, it is his second record, but this record and set of songs really finds him honing in on a mature full sound and voice as a songwriter and storyteller. This time around, he worked with Wade Bowen and Justin Pollard at the producing helm. While I think this may technically be Wade's first producing credit, I totally get why Mason would seek out another artist and songwriter to produce an album. And obviously Wade has been in the studio more than his fair share of times, but I think there's some comfort level for Mason in choosing someone like Wade because he is a songwriter and he is an artist, and he's going to understand some of those things that maybe an artist or a songwriter wants. And of course, Justin Pollard, he has all of the other stuff under control. If you aren't familiar, he drummed for Pat Green for a long time and is all over a lot of your favorite Pat records. And of course, he's produced a few of your latest favorite albums by John Bauman. Anyway, the new record from Mason is stellar, and this conversation right here was a hell of a great time. We cover a lot of ground. Today's presenting partner is our pals over at Desert Door Texas Soto. If you're asking yourself what exactly Desert Door or a Soto is, well, it's a premium, high-quality spirit that is similar to a tequila or a mezcal, but in my estimation, it's more refined, smooth, and fragrant. It has a distinct and intriguing palate that picks up on hints of vanilla and citrus while maintaining a healthy earthiness that is quite enjoyable. One of my favorite features about Desert Door is just how versatile it really is. If you want to feel fancy and a little highbrow, it's perfect for a variety of cocktails that call for lime wedges and coarse salt, chopped ginger, agave nectar, sprigs of thyme and sticks of cinnamon. If you're down to muddle some fresh fruit, all that kind of stuff, it's perfect. It's great for experimentation and fine-tuning all of your mixologist skills. And then also, if you're a little bit more down home and casual, you got that denim jacket on. It's just perfect for those short and sweet, simple go-to favorites that hit the mark every time. I'm talking about ranch waters and Moscow mules and palomas and Mexican Coca-Cola with Desert Door. What I love so much about Desert Door is just how genuine and authentically West Texan they are as well. They go out and harvest Soto plants out in the wild and are aware and knowledgeable conservationists at heart. So next time you're at your neighborhood liquor store, get yourself a bottle of Desert Door. I'll throw a link into the show notes for more information. Before we get started, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't just yet. If you're on iTunes, leave a 5-star review. Be sure to check out the merch store. We have some new coffee mugs, t-shirts, and shot glasses. Yeah, go get yourself one. Check out the Patreon as well. It's a great way to support this podcast and journalism in general. And it's also a great way to get ad-free episodes, merch, and much more. All right, let's get into it. Here is Mason Lively. Well, I guess, I was thinking back about the first time I saw you play, and I think like the first time we kind of crossed paths was when you were playing here in Lubbock, and I think that show you opened up for Wade Bowen, who of course, a couple years later produced this record. Obviously, it's one of those things where him being a staple of the scene for a long time, and really being a great person to bounce ideas and thoughts off of for a lot of these up and coming songwriters, including yourself, is one thing. But at what point does it change to where you're comfortable enough to, ask them for some guidance on producing a record?
Yeah, I mean, I remember that show too. That was at Charlie B's opening for Wade, and we had been kind of on a string of shows with him, and we just put out Stronger Ties, the first record, and we were kind of in the process of really forming from like not knowing what we were doing at all to just being out on the road with these guys, you know, because like with that record, that first record, we just didn't know what we were doing. These are just songs that I wrote in San Marcos when I should have been going to class, you know, on my couch. But so it's cool to like be opening for guys like Wade and all that coming of that record. And I guess it started with just shows like that and hanging out with, you know, of course, you and I both know Wade really well. He's a good dude. He invites everybody to always just kind of come hang out on the bus. And, you know, just with conversation and picking his brain, I'd always ask him advice on making records because I was already looking forward to the next record and writing songs for it and kind of planning for it. And he'd always kind of give me the same advice. And that was just always, the producer is such a big element in what makes a record. And it's the biggest key of finding your sound and just finding the whole flow of the record in general and like what you can do with it stylistically and sonically. And, you know, so he just would always make it a point to talk about the producer and that was the element that we really needed to nail down for the record. And eventually after hearing this advice a few different times after a few different shows, I just asked him one day, like literally sitting on the bus with him, if he had produced at number one and if he would like to do it. Because I was already looking at, you know, I had enough songs, I had enough co-writes. Well, I thought at the time. He actually booked me with a few other people after he agreed to it. And a lot of songs that I co-wrote with afterwards ended up making the record. But yeah, so he said yes. And he was really pumped up from day one about the project because, you know, he was like, hey, obviously, like, I like you. I love your sound. And he'd heard a couple of the new songs. So that's just kind of really where it started and what kind of put the wheels in motion.
Yeah. I mean, like, that's obviously some solid advice. And it's one of those things where a lot of times being on the right page and finding that right person who has like the similar goal for you, for what that record is supposed to sound like or what you're wanting to sound like for a record. You know, obviously like the communication is key. And I think like a lot of times an artist knows what they're wanting. A songwriter knows what they're wanting, what kind of sound, but it's relaying the messages to the players and that producer and the engineer that, hey, this is how I want it, you know? And sometimes, especially early on in anything, you may not have like the language or the vernacular to relay that message.
For sure. Yeah. That's the main thing that I really picked up on was like Wade brought in, I have to mention, Wade brought in Justin Pollard to co-produce with him because he was confident in it, but he's like, I really want just a career producer kind of alongside me with this project. And so Justin, of course, produces for Bowen and has done Pat Green records and just a pro. And just those two together really that was their specialty 100%, was not only helping me pick the songs, but relaying what I wanted and what the three of us really kind of wanted as a whole, because a lot of what this record was I don't want to say compromise, but maybe just like a real give and take conversation of like, not really the sound, but yeah, just the different direction of every song and where it should go. And you know, Justin makes records. Wade has, you know, almost 2 decades on me of making records. So that's the thing that they knew how to relay that information in a, you know, quick way to the players, to the engineers and everything like that, to where you're hearing one song one way when it's just an acoustic demo. And by the end of the sometimes hour, you've made this thing out of it. You know, you've made the song out of it thanks to that information.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what is it like as far as, is there any examples of where you're like, this is the bare bones of this song right here, and hey, Justin, I heard you do this on Bauman's record. I kind of want the same feel. Or hey, Wade, I remember this song off of whatever record that you did. Is there any examples like that? Did you ever like use language like that to be like, this is the feel I want for a certain song or anything?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. And a lot of that was, I can't really remember um, exact information as far as like which songs went in that direction, but I remember conversations like that getting thrown back and forth all the time. Like Justin would say, like, this is exactly what we did on John's song, whatever. And as far as the guitar tones, or maybe if we wanted to make the song a little more spacey or than we had intended to. And a lot of songs went in a different direction that I didn't expect either. Like there's a song in there called Left Behind that had fiddle on there. And at first I was like, I don't know if I want fiddle. And then it made the song. And there's a song called Demons on there that I wanted just an acoustic track, and it ended up being the same idea, really open air. But it was electric, and it was just this cool delay effect on it. They were just doing the rhythm, and that's really all it had, with a little bit of like piano at the end. And it was really cool the way it came out. And a lot of that. And of course, with songs like Happy Home, the one I just put out, I've been playing that live for 2 years now, since the first record came out. So I've had time to really sit on that song, and with playing it live with the band, think of many different ways that it could have gone in the studio. And I think everybody's experience with the records they've made and the records that the sounds that they've really made and been a part of really kind of contributed to all of that.
Yeah, well, specifically for like a song like Happy Home, where it has been around for a while and you've been playing it live, is there like anything where, you still have to stay open-minded because it may, like, you don't want to like necessarily do the thing that you guys did live with it? Maybe there's like a better way. Do you have to stay open-minded and like kind of, approach it like it is a fresh song, even if it has been around for a minute?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That was the biggest, not like obstacle about that song, but it was just I think it was more of a learning experience, because I did go to it really open-minded. I'm like, okay, I obviously have an idea of how this song is. I've had time to chew on it. We've played it live this way for, X amount of shows. And I know Wade and Justin are there's going to be something, even if it's small or huge, like there's going to be a little change that they want to make. And I got to just be like, okay, yeah, you're right. And come to it with the most open way possible. And I even surprised myself. You push yourself in the studio, because I was surprised at how open-minded I was with some of these changes. And I was like, I really am just going to approach it this way from the beginning. That was my mentality. And Happy Home, like, for example, the chorus is switched. When I had written the song, the second half of the chorus was the beginning, and the first half of the chorus is the second part. And so it made sense to me. I don't know why at the time when I wrote it, but Wade just kept going on about, I really think we should switch these two halves of the chorus, just like put the second half first. And I did that, and it makes so much more sense now. It's like more of a cohesive thought. You got the point across the way it was, but it just gave it a more even flow, I guess, of like the thought as a whole in the chorus, and little things like picking up right before the first chorus, picking up the whole band right before it. That was different than how we played it live. We used to just go through the first chorus very open air, and then after the end of that chorus kind of go into it full band. But yeah, just little changes like that you got to be open for, and really just kind of listen and understand why we're making those decisions, and find the good in that,
Yeah, because I know like a lot of times when a band is like road testing that song and trying to figure out what it is, you end up falling in line with a certain way of playing it, because you're getting that instant reaction from a crowd, and maybe it makes a little bit more sense to do it this way in that live setting, or in this, these smaller rooms, or whatever the case is. And it's not like being lazy or anything like that, or like falling into routine, but sometimes it's like, well, this record or this song has a track record of that instant gratification, and sometimes it's like we kind of have to throw that out or dismiss those thoughts, just because it's honestly going to be a little bit better in a this way in a studio setting or on a record in the placement of a record.
Right. Well, you have time to overthink it when it comes to those kind of situations. And I mean, like you said, it's instant gratification in a sense. Like, hey, I know people react well to a song this way, but you know, you got to step back and think, is it really the band picking up before the chorus? Is that really what they like about the song? I mean, or are you just overthinking? And that's where you got to really step back and just be like, okay, it's for the song. And most people, A, don't notice it anyway, or B, you know, just love something different that you don't see, that a lot of times I think that's the case, that the artist doesn't see about the song. That's why they love it, not because of the little in detail stuff.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Wade about saying, hey, you should switch those lines. A couple of years back, now I say a couple of years, it was probably a long time ago now. I remember being on Wade's bus where we were down in Midland, and this was like early days of Flatland Cavalry in Dalton, and they were opening up a show for Wade. And so we were on the bus, and Wade was like, play us a song, you know, and so Flatland plays a song, or Cleto plays a song, and it's like at the point where they don't even have like with Flatland, I think only their EP was out, not even their first record. And so they play a song, and then Dalton plays 7 Years, and I'd have to go back and listen to where it was specifically, but after the end of the song, Wade's like, man, that's really good. Have you ever thought about changing that like specific word to this instead of like, and you could see Dalton's like the light bulb flash above him, and he's like, shit. And he had already recorded it, and it was like the record was already out and everything. But if you listen now, he plays it that way, like every time.
Does he really?
Yeah. And it makes sense that way too. And I mean, it made sense the other way as well, but like the weight of the line changes so much with the change that Wade suggested.
It's so funny, like it's just funny how these artists hear, like myself included, artists in general, just hear things that others don't, or vice versa. You know, I mean, other artists will hear something in a song that you you think to yourself, I've got this song figured out. You know, I've looked at it from every angle. And then, yeah, there's something like that. A holy shit moment happens where you're just like, oh, duh, you know, or for better or worse. And it's funny that Wade, I love the idea of Wade going around like throwing different line suggestions like here and there, like he's the guy that you go to if you don't see something in a song. But yeah, it's hilarious. And I really enjoyed working with Wade too, because he takes it as an approach for him to be like, hey, these are the mistakes that I make as an artist, and this is from me not listening, you know, because like, for an example, another tidbit of advice he always gives me is like, you got to start playing electric more on stage, like, you know, like electric guitar versus acoustic. And I was talking to, you know, Scott, his manager, and he's like, I've been telling Wade to play electric on stage for 10 years, and he's always turned me down. Why is he giving you that advice? So it's funny to hear that from Wade and be like, this is where I'm just coming at you with stuff that I've learned, and some advice I've taken, some I haven't. Even the stuff that I haven't taken, I know was good advice. So it's funny the approach that he does take with all this kind of stuff.
This episode is brought to you by Wild Gallery. Based in Austin, Texas, Wild Gallery is Austin's only art gallery featuring Native American art. Head on over to wyld.gallery to see their vast array of traditional and contemporary art by Native American artists. Currently, they are a virtual gallery. You can still make appointments on their website if you're wanting to purchase a specific painting in person, but of course, the beauty of them being virtual is that you're able to see and buy from your home without trekking all the way to Austin. While New Slang definitely focuses on music, I always love speaking with songwriters about those other mediums that they explore. Often that's through painting and drawing, the visual arts. And since I'm a West Texas native, I've long been drawn to the history, the stories, traditions, and heritage of Native Americans. especially those that were out here in the Western frontier. And that is what's so great about Wild Gallery. All of the artists featured are Native American, and they are telling stories about Native Americans. If you scroll through their collection, you'll see a wide range of styles as well. There's definitely some American West and some bold pop art. There's more of that traditional fine art like oil on canvas, as well as those that are influenced by Native American traditions. My parents, they always had paintings hanging around the house or their offices that were inspired by West Texas and Native Americans. And now I do as well, especially here in my office, which I'll let you guess where the latest print is from. As a journalist, I do feel like the most intimidating part is staring at a blank white page. And of course, you don't have to be a journalist to be staring at a white blank page. I know a lot of y'all do that. What I'm saying though is don't let your walls suffer from that same white blandness. Go visit Wild Gallery. I guarantee you will find something that moves you and that you'll want hanging in your home. Again, that's Wild with a Y. Go visit wyld.gallery. Links will be in the show notes as well. Okay, let's get back to the episode. Yeah, it makes sense sometimes whenever, especially when you're early on. But I mean, you can probably apply this to any point in your career. But, especially early on when you don't know a whole lot of other songwriters. And as you said, you were writing, not going to class. And in a lot of ways, like, if you are showing those songs off, you're showing it to family first, or for maybe friends, or
Right.
maybe you're not even showing to anyone. So there's almost like this built-in, and especially since you wrote it, there's this built-in like I guess like all of the stuff that didn't make it into the song that you're able to like you're falling back on for context, and maybe when you play it for someone else, that context is not there because they don't necessarily know how you got to that point. You get what I'm saying? And so,
Oh yeah,
I think that's like a major key is like where if you show it to someone else, sometimes like it makes sense in your head. I know there's plenty of stuff I've written, not even when it comes to music, it makes sense in my head because I'm the one who wrote it, and I took some parts out and it still makes sense to me. But then you have to explain it to someone else because you took out too much of the good stuff or too much of the context. And I can see how that would be very applicable to songwriting, especially early on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that with any form of art, you can easily overthink it. And I guess the overthink is just the lazy way of putting it, but at least just speed yourself up when it's not necessary. Like when I'm writing songs myself now, just like I'm writing this one by myself. But if I start one, because I do that a lot now, I'll just be like, I'm going to Nashville regularly and almost like once a month now just to do co-writes and everything. And so I've gotten in the habit of just like, if I have a cool idea, or it's a line or a melody or something, even like a whole verse or whatever, I'm like, all right, I'm going to tuck this away and save it for when, someone asks if I get an idea and a co-write. And we'll build off of that. But a lot of times with a song that I kind of decide early on, I'm going to finish this by myself, I just take my time with it now. I kind of sit back, and mainly because I've been so busy lately, but also I've noticed that if I just try and rush something right there, like if I decide, I'm going to write the song by myself and just try and write it right there now, I get in kind of that, okay, let's wrap this up mentality, and you miss a lot of that stuff that you do take a step back and notice later, or things that other people might notice about it. Like, hey, why didn't you do this? I'm like, oh yeah, just because, oh, well, I know why, because I didn't take that time to think about doing that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's like a lot of times, I mean, I think it's human nature to do this, like just to kind of want to be done with something where, instead of it going up in like 5% increments, you want it to upload like from 0 to 100. And it's not necessarily even like you don't appreciate the work or the time or anything like that. It's because you want to be finished. You want to have like whatever it is
Right.
done because you want to show it off, or maybe and I mean, a lot of that right there is because like you're sometimes working too fast. Your brain's going too quickly. And it's yeah, slowing down and like just breathing for a minute and letting it marinate is so much of the process.
Yeah, it's funny because I'll kind of let myself down for a minute. I'll be like, oh wow, I got like 10 songs right now that are halfway done that I've decided that I'm gonna just write myself. And I'll think about it and be like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm not done with this song yet. And I'm like, damn, I gotta finish this. This is what I have right now is really good. This verse and chorus or whatever, just this chorus is really good. But at the same time, I just tell myself, well, I'll get to that, because I'll think about it a little bit more. And because if I sit down right now and when I'm not in that groove or not in that mood to write my best, then it's, I'm going to get stuck on whatever I jot down, and that's not going to be the best that it could be.
Yeah. Well, when you, I guess, relate it to album making, um, I think a lot of times, especially early on, and maybe this is still happening a lot, but down here in Texas, I know a lot of artists. It's more like, oh, we've got 10 songs. It's time to cut a record. Well, right now, I think big time in like Nashville, it's always been more of this way, and I think you're starting to see a lot more of it now, since there is so much of these like young and established artists from Texas going up to Nashville and co-writing and cutting songs and records up there, where they do like, oh, we've got 50 songs for a record and we have to dwindle it down to 10 or 11 or whatever the case is. What's it been like, I guess, like, approaching, I know this is your second record and everything, but what is it like, approaching album making in that way, where it is more where you're not just doing like, oh, 10 songs, let's cut a record, where it is more of a bigger number, whatever number that is, and then dwindling it down to make an album of strong songs?
Yeah, well, even though this was the second record, I mean, I had that time and I was writing a lot on the road between these records and these co-writes, even after I got Wade on board, and having him throw a lot of people my way in Nashville to do co-writes with. I can't remember the exact number. I think I had around 30 for this record at first that I had done and co-written, and we dwindled it down to 11, or maybe like 25 to 30. But I think just really the process was, and there's a couple on there that I'm still saving to be like, I gotta record this. There's a couple that didn't make it that I feel like, I don't know if I feel like should have, but maybe that belong on something that fits it more, And I think my process with it was, well, I chose these songs with Wade in the room and with Justin in the room. And I wanted to be, and all of us to be confident in what we were choosing and what songs we were, what direction we were going to go with it.
Yeah. I mean, I think like that's something that maybe people, when I say like 10 songs written, I don't necessarily mean like even that, 5 of them are great and like 5 are throwaways that you just kind of did, but maybe they didn't work for, you're kind of like shoehorning them in because like they're the first 10 instead of like, something that they work better for another project or another record. I'm sure like that's for a lot of people, but yeah, I can definitely see where you're like, oh, well, this record or this song is still super important to me, and I think it's really, really fucking great. But maybe next record it makes a little bit more sense, or whatever the case is.
Yeah, definitely. There are guys that'll do that. They'll like really writing their 10th song in the studio, and sometimes that works. Sometimes it's just like trying to get it under the line. But I think as far as I go, it's just you just never know as far as what songs are going to end up on what project. And now, I mean, it's so weird. Everybody's just doing EPs and stuff now. So I'm kind of like, I'm kind of at a loss as far as, and I've got a lot of publishing deal interest up in Nashville too. And good chance of a couple of these songs that I've co-written with some dudes getting even cuts. So I have no idea where I'm going to go from here. Like, am I going to do an EP with a couple of these songs that I really like that are potentially going to get snatched by a bigger artist. Cause if that's going to happen, hell yeah. Like I want to cut, you know, but like, at the same time, you know, you got to just really kind of think about what you're going to do with each project and what songs are going to be on there and really how you're going to approach that whole deal.
This episode of New Slang is brought to you by the Blue Light Live here in Lubbock, Texas. Blue Light has undoubtedly been my home away from home over the years and has played such a vital role not only for my development as a journalist, but obviously it's been one of the foundational pieces for a lot of your favorite songwriters and bands who have made it out of the Lubbock area over the years. And of course, as a music venue, they've played such a pivotal role for a lot of your favorite bands just in general. One of my favorite parts about Blue Light is just how versatile the place can truly be. I've seen it crowded and rowdy on a Saturday night for a rock and roll band, and I've seen it dead still on a Wednesday when a legendary singer-songwriter rolls through town. What you should do is go over to bluelightlubbock.com and check out all the new merch they've added. Hats, t-shirts, both short and long sleeve. They also have hoodies and koozies and just added some sweatshirts that are very much an homage to the college sweatshirt that John Belushi wore in Animal House. And then of course, maybe the crown jewel of their new merch is the Varsity Club style jacket in blue satin. I got one the other day, and yeah, it's just one of my favorite things I own now. And yeah, I don't know, I just love it. Anyway, you can check out all of their new merch over at bluelightlubbock.com. As always, I'll throw a link into the show notes for easy access. Okay, let's get back to the show. I think like one of my things right now that I've kind of latched onto these past few months has been how, you know, you got to get to this point where you're writing to write and not writing like where you're putting pressure on any songs or like any pressure on, oh, I need a number one hit. This needs to be like the radio anthem. This needs to be like the acoustic ballad. And, you know, I think like that's what, when you get in that space where it's just about like the writing and then like letting all that other stuff like figure itself out, that's like a good place to get to. And it feels like you're on that track of getting where, you know, you're not putting too much pressure on any specific song or anything like that where, you know, it's easy to like put pressure on a certain song or the idea of like anything happening forward in the future and then being completely let down, you know?
Yeah. And there's pros and cons about looking at every song very like democratic as far as like, I don't want to like really, really get my hopes up about one specifically with whatever it does, like with me recording it or whether it's got a good chance of it getting cut. Like I just want to write every song as best I can and just kind of figure out as I go where this song belongs. You know, it could sit in my damn Dropbox for a couple of years. I don't know, but like, just kind of letting God work that out and figuring out what exactly is the right place for this song or that song, and just, I don't know, seeing where it goes.
Mm-hmm.
And listening to people around you really helps. I mean, everybody's got a different opinion as far as like what you should do with this or that, but the best advice are really just the people that give that sort of advice. Just let it play out, just see what happens, and just work your ass off to write the best song you can, and you know, just take the best advice that you can, you know.
Yeah, for sure. You know, you've mentioned some of these co-writers that you've had on this record and going up to Nashville and writing with different folks over the last year or two. And, you know, obviously, if you look at the liner notes of who's gotten some cuts on this record, you know, they're kind of some well-known Texas guys, you know, Drew Womack and Drew Kennedy, Ryan Beaver, those types. But what's it been like? What's been like your favorite, like, I guess, like advice or like story when it comes to a co-write, but it's not necessarily about the song, like something happened before or after that you realize, oh, like this is, I didn't know this about this person. Is there anything like that where, you know, it was kind of more about the hang previously?
Yeah,
the actual
for
write?
Sure. I do, like, as far as really all those, what I really take away from is like how different, I guess when it comes to the hang or the process in general, like how different everybody's process is when writing songs. Like somebody could just really focus on the song and the song alone, or somebody could just like spend a few hours writing a song and just kind of like, even when you're co-writing with them, like, hey, you want to go get a snack or a coffee first, and just kind of really take your time with it and jump on it when you can or when you want to. Everybody's different in that sense. And I've noticed, like with Drew, I always think of Drew Kennedy. He's like a songwriting scientist, he analyzes every single word and he's really in on it, and that's cool to watch. And then, you got some guys that are just kind of more lax about it, and it's just learning everybody's rhythm while writing songs has been always kind of fascinating to me, and just really seeing the excitement that people get. Like I just wrote a song with Bobby Tomberlin, who wrote One More Day, and I'm going in that room psyched because I'm like, oh, that's badass. He wrote One More Day, and just seeing him getting excited about a song that we're writing together is really cool too, because you're like, this guy he doesn't need to get that excited about, like, he's genuinely, these guys who have hits under their belt genuinely still enjoy this process and really like get fired up about it and get fired up about the grind of like, oh yeah, well, we got to pitch it to this, I bet so-and-so will cut it, so that's always a cool, just really kind of taking away those experiences and co-writes has always been rewarding to me.
Yeah, there's I think there's something to, like, even if you think someone's super, super cool and like just kind of, low key and really just laid back, even that person, if you're able to be a fly on the wall, like they get like that excitement and they get that like fire in their eyes when something clicks, and like, especially if there's something that you've been working on and like, this didn't work. And this sort of worked, but like we needed to jumble it up or something. And then finally it clicks. You see that like excitement or, whatever the case is. And that's really, really cool. And I say that because like, even like the most like laid back people, they get into that moment and they do that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Everybody's got a different process, and it's really cool to see what each process is, and yeah, to see where these guys grab that excitement in the co-writing and where that comes from.
Since a lot of these folks that you're writing with are a little bit older, do you typically kind of like ease into the room, or is it one of those things where even you as like a younger guy, not necessarily where you want to dominate the room or anything like that, but that you go in like, hey, this is an idea that I think will work. What's kind of like your approach to it?
Yeah, I never like, I know I really enjoy, and as you can see in the track record, I just enjoy writing with the older guys, man. It's fun, and it's like, you go in there and you listen to them, and I think that's the key when it comes to that, because there are a lot of guys that I know and I've written with around my age that can come in there real cocky, even if they don't realize that they're coming off like that, but I don't think I put off that vibe. I think I just come in and I make conversation, and I think I'm a good listener as far as like when it comes to them telling their stories and everything like that, or what they got on their mind as far as what they're writing. And I think that's a big thing as far as like writing with these guys who like to take their time or really analyze their songs and everything, is just to always be a fly on the wall and figure it out. Don't fanboy or talk about their hit, don't rattle off on Bobby Tomberlin's ear about One More Day for 30 minutes, but don't talk about all your cool ass memories you've got with that song. But at the same time, just listen and also just throw out stuff that you think that they would like, and then the co-write, and sometimes the things that you don't throw out, they do or don't like. I don't know. It's always a different process, but that's what I always find is the difference between writing with these kind of older guys versus writing with the younger cats, because the younger dudes, and a lot of times, like I just wrote a song with a guy named Logan Wall and Summer Overstreet, and they're both pretty young, and it was just a lot of times that's just a real, like, there's a minutia to it, like almost barely talked about, just like, okay, how about this line, and it's cool because it's like not an assembly line in the bad way, but just like a rapid fire of like, okay, well, this line should go there, this line, this line. So just those kind of processes are really interesting to analyze too.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think that, it's one of those things where if you're writing with people around your same age, there's probably a less intimidation, less of the, and not being intimidated in a bad way, but, being aware of who that person is. And, I fully understand like not wanting to say that stupid thing or, present yourself as being cool and professional and all that kind of stuff. But I guess like people around your same age, there's less of that pressure, and you're still like you're talking about like the same experiences in real time, if you will.
Yeah, and the old guys like that too. Like they really envy and like the spot that you're in as an artist, especially if they think you're talented, because that's a big part too. Like I'm blessed to walk in a room and throw some lines out and sing some of those lines and have these guys think I'm talented right there. Like that's the cool part of it. And then all of a sudden you really feel like you have gained their respect, and that makes you more confident in their right. And you go from the like, oh shucks, to like you're throwing out good stuff that they're really respecting and liking about it.
Yeah. No, I guess like there has to be that part of like knowing why you were in there, like why
Exactly.
This is even lined up. All in balance. I like how you said you got to listen, because as a journalist, that's always been my advice to anyone is like, pay attention to what they're saying in conversation and not necessarily what you have written down on the paper or whatever you just thought like 10 minutes ago, because like you may miss something. And I feel like that has to be the same thing in songwriting.
For sure. And it's funny because even in the conversation, the guys say, I want to get better at that, because those guys are really good at that, because like it's always kind of funny, or not looked down on, but it's always like pinned corny when somebody pulls a couple words out of a conversation you're having with them and be like, that could be a song,
Right.
But a lot of times, like Charlie Stout is infamous about like how awesome that whole situation is. But a lot of times these older guys are really good at that. Like they're good at grabbing those lines and be like, that could be a song. And you, at first you want to cringe because you hear that and you hear Charlie ramble on about it in Clubhouse, but you you kind of sit back and you think about, oh wow, that really could be, and that ends up being in the song and fitting perfectly. And that's another cool thing too. That's a big part of the listening process with it, and not letting certain walls block the possibility of like, oh, that could fit in there,
This episode of New Slang is brought to you by Hot Damn Coffee. Rolling in from the hills of eastern Tennessee is Hot Damn Coffee. It's a down-home company that roasts single-origin, high-quality coffees from around the world. Their year-round roasts come from certified farms in Ethiopia, Tanzania, and Nicaragua. Check out the Hot Damn website over at hotdamn.coffee. There you can find more info on their operation and roasting process, and some helpful tips on how to brew the best cup of coffee. They've certainly made my mornings that much better. And to be perfectly honest, I enjoy a nice cup of coffee at all hours of the day. Some of my favorites have been the Tanzanian peaberry in medium roast and the medium roast of Nicaraguan with the honey process. While there, check out their Hot Damn Coffee Club, which is a monthly subscription service. With the holiday season coming upon us, it's just really kind of the perfect gift. I don't care how difficult or easy a person is to shop for, they'll always be good with items like high quality coffee. And of course, right now, if you throw in the promo code SLANG in all caps, that's SLANG, you'll get 20% off your order. And if you're signing up for the Coffee Club subscription service, they'll take 20% off that first month and also throw in a bonus 8-ounce bag of their Nicaraguan coffee. Again, that's SLANG in all caps. Head over to hotdamn.coffee and sign up today. All right, let's get back to the episode. Yeah, no, I think like there's definitely, it depends on who's saying it. My whole thing is like, just like the guy on Twitter telling Jason Isbell to write a song about that tweet is probably not like there's probably not a song in there. But
No, those
if,
guys.
if I don't know, if Wade Bowen says, "Hey, there's a song in there," it's probably a
Yeah.
little bit more. You can probably like go, "Oh, okay, well maybe there is a song."
Yeah, no, those guys didn't write "I Hope You Dance" or something, or like "One More Day." So they're I'm not reading what a Twitter guy says. But if those guys that I'm writing the song with will be like, "There's a song in there," I'd be like, "Oh, tell me about it."
Yeah. So I know like a lot of these rides there, you go into there and it's a little bit more laid back and you ease into writing the song. Um, and it's all of that respect and all that kind of stuff that we've been talking about. But has there been anything where you gone like, oh man, that like and I guess what I'm saying is like, does Drew Kennedy do the yoga 5 minutes before riding, or is there anything like that where you're like, huh, okay, well that's maybe that's why he's writing great songs. Is there anything like that?
I don't. I haven't run into anything like that yet. I wouldn't be surprised if I didn't at some point. But I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think about somebody who ever had like a certain. I mean, of course, there's always guys that like always want to be drinking coffee during the ride or whatever like that. I don't really have any that stand out yet. But as soon as someone says, "All right, what we should do is do a couple stretches, maybe do a Peloton class real quick before the ride," I'll let you know.
Yeah. Well, what do you have like as far as kind of getting set? Is there like are you a coffee guy, or are you like I
Oh
have to have
yeah,
like a certain notebook or anything like that?
yeah. I mean, I've done. That's another thing too that'll impress the old guys if you come up with a notebook, which I like. I prefer like writing in like a journal and stuff, and then just doing all the digital stuff with it later. But I mean, I'll write with both. Sometimes I'll just write on notes on my phone. But a lot of times coffee helps, and I've noticed that either like morning or late in the evening before you're about to go to bed, I feel like you're your best. Like, I was listening to some podcast that said like Tom T. Hall literally every morning he would wake up and drink coffee and write, and only did it the first couple hours after he'd woken up. And I mean, that shows that's writers find that groove that works for them, and they stick with it.
Yeah, I think there's something very much to those early hours and those late hours because, and if you look at like, I mean, Tom T. Hall's doing it. I mean, everyone needs to do it, but
It obviously works. Yeah.
yeah, if you look at a lot of just various kind of writers or creators, it's almost in those are the great moments because, in the morning you're waking up with a clear mind, and then if you're writing at night, it's almost like it's more like that self-reflection of what happened for that day, and I feel like both can be great times to create and to find that inspiration.
They're different. Yeah. They're like, I've noticed like morning, you're real fresh. You're real quick with it. And I've noticed in the evening or like right before you're about to go to bed, it's kind of a lazily way of finding something good. Like you just kind of feel it slowly creep up on you, like something, like whether it's a cool melody or a cool line. Like, I mean, the fact that Alan Jackson woke up at like 3 a.m. and wrote "Wherever You in the World Stop Turning," like that shows that something happens in your mind, like when you're sleeping or about to fall asleep, that really sparks some sort of creativity. Like, it's weird.
Yeah, for sure. Is there any example of anything like that on this record? As far as like
This
what's like the latest song written on this record?
The latest song written on it was probably "Something About a Southern Girl," which I wrote with Wade and Drew, and that was just a kind of traditional standard. Like we went to Wade's house, and the three of us wrote the song, and it was something like that I had an idea for the chorus, and like had half the chorus, half one of the verses, and it was a good example of a song that I didn't think it was really that great. It's just like, here's something, something about a Southern girl. It's something kind of cutesy, like cliche, and they loved it. And then we got to working on it, and we found a cool way to not make that cliche, just make it kind of charming in a way. And and ended up being, of course, the first song that we put out from this record, and I love the song now. And as far as like one of the hours of the day songs, Happy Home, I wrote like really late at night before I was about to go to bed, and I wrote that in like 30 minutes. You know, just one of those things, like you're sitting on your bed literally and songs just like pouring out of you, and like, where is this coming from?
I'm sure there's like satisfaction anytime you write a song, but is there a different kind of satisfaction when it comes that late at night where you are going to bed and like, you know, it's probably what the last thing you're thinking about before you fall asleep?
Yeah, there really is, because you're kind of mad at yourself. It's like, like I said, like, where is this coming from? Because like, you know, I've got this other song that I sit down at 1 p.m. or whatever in the middle of the day, and I really try hard to write a cool line afterwards, and then all of a sudden I'm getting up, and there's something about this melody or the first few words that I put down that is really like charging whatever's going on to finish the song that quickly, and every line is still coming out better than the one before, you know. So I don't know. It's just it is rewarding when something like that happens, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like that's you know, I'm always one that, I mean, obviously like being a journalist is a little bit different, but I'm always one to procrastinate. So a lot of times I end up writing super late anyways, and I always at least feel like, okay, I accomplished something, you know. So there is that little bit of added, I don't know, whatever it is to
Yeah, journalism, like y'all have deadlines, which is whole different kind of pressure, you know. Other than like record time every couple of years, like I feel like songwriters don't really have that deadline that's making them really like put something down. They just need to have songs. So I can't imagine like that kind of pressure to have, especially when it comes to, because I'm a procrastinator by nature, and especially when it comes to that whole situation.
yeah. For me, like the thing that I've had to learn to get over is that, you know, whenever you're writing a song, everything has to have like purpose for it, right? And it has to sound cool and like, you know, relay that message. Sometimes in journalism, it's not going to sound cool. Sometimes like you just need that sentence that is filled with information, and it doesn't have to roll off the tongue, and it just has to, you got to have sometimes ugly sentences in journalism.
Yeah, I mean, it's just different different programs for sure.
But you know, we've been talking on, I think, everyone's favorite new social media, Clubhouse, the past couple of weeks. And you know, yesterday you brought up first shows, and you said your first show was Robert Earl Keen. Take us back to that moment. What was how excited were you to see Robert Earl Keen, because, you know, Texas staple.
Yes. Yeah, that was a cool conversation to have in there. And it was my first show. I was in 7th grade. Robert Earl Keen was headlining a festival in a little town called Cuero, which is outside of Victoria. They have this, you know, every little town like that has a weird mascot to have a festival about. Well, that one's the Cuero Turkey Fest. And Robert Earl was headlining, and my dad was a huge Robert Earl fan. He played Live Number 2 like crazy, and I think that CD actually got stuck in his old truck. So he sold the truck with Live Number 2 in the CD player. But yeah, so obviously I knew who he was, and I'd grown up as a kid like really loving his songs, and my dad took me to go see him, and that was just really cool, you know. I mean, and like we were talking about, some people are embarrassed to say their first concert. That's always a kind of like a badge of honor, especially in Texas, where you're like, hey, this was mine. And he has Robert Earl in general as an artist, I don't know if it's necessarily more for nostalgia, but regardless of the reason for it, he is definitely a huge influence on myself as an artist and songwriter.
Yeah, no, I've seen him play a couple of times, and I'm sure obviously it has to be different than seeing him in like '97.
Oh yeah,
clearly, but like, I mean, those songs still hold up so much, and you know, as I've gotten older, you know, going back into the back catalog and the deep cuts, that's where like you go, man, like he was such a fucking great storyteller, and
oh
you
yeah,
know, everyone knows Road Goes On Forever. And, you know, that's down here in Texas, obviously, that's a lot of, you know, class songs. But,
Right.
and everyone loves those kind of songs and like the anthems. But, man, there's so many great deep cuts about,
Dude,
you know, the
my
Western
dad.
and whatnot.
Oh yeah, I mean and some of the songs, like he really paints a picture, and people will kind of throw out certain examples like Merry Christmas with the Family or something like that and be like, yeah, he's all right. And I'm like, no, but you got to listen to like Paint the Town Beige or something. No, he's a great songwriter. I mean, like, but yeah, my dad was like hanging out in College Station when he should have been going to college too, around that time too, like late 80s, early 90s, when just he was like everywhere around the College Station area, Robert Earl, playing and stuff, and got to catch a bunch of his shows and stuff. So that just sounds like such a cool time, like moment of time to be seeing guys like him live, you know?
Want to break one more time to talk about our pals over at Desert Door and offer a handful of my favorite go-tos. By no means am I an experienced mixologist or bartender or anything like that, but these have been super easy to make and great ways to unwind in the evening. Let's start off by upping your ranch water game a little bit by subbing Desert Door in. I'm a simple man. I just kind of take a Topo Chico, take a couple of drinks out, add some Desert Door, and top it off with a few lime wedges. I'm actually pretty big on the Palomas now too. What I'll do is take some Desert Door, some grapefruit juice, a dash of agave nectar, and some fresh lime juice. And I'm kind of big on lime, so I'll throw in another wedge or two when I pour it over some ice. And actually, I'll do the exact same thing, but I'll substitute some pineapple for the grapefruit for a change up. And now that the weather is dipping down, I've started having a Desert Door version of a hot toddy. Put some Door and some honey together and give it a mix. Add in an Earl Grey tea bag with some boiling hot water. Let it just sit for a minute. Remember, patience is a virtue. And then, of course, I'll squeeze in a little bit of lemon just to have that balance. Anyway, Desert Door, it's as versatile as vodka and more refined, smooth, and complex than tequila. It's rich and balanced, so whatever your go-to is, it'll do the trick. For more info on Desert Door, check the show notes. All right, back to the episode. Yeah, I do want to make note of, you know, the what is it? The turkey.
Cuero Turkey Fest.
There you go. So on Clubhouse, I met a guy named Grover, and he's from Culberson County. No, not Culberson County. Calaveras County. That's the one.
Oh, okay.
You know, the Jason Eady song. And that's how like we were talking. And he said his county, I guess, little fair thing is the frog jump. And I think like that's hilariously awesome too.
The frog jump. Yeah. I mean, well, like Poteet's got the Strawberry Festival, or like Luling with the watermelon thump. And it's just funny how like these little towns, they'll grab onto something like that.
Yeah. For Fort Stockton, we do like our anthem is kind of, or not our anthem, but our like mascot is the Roadrunner, Pisano Pete. It's the statue out there. But like as far as our little city fair kind of thing, it's the water carnival. So you want to be Miss Fort Stockton if you're an 18-year-old girl.
A water carnival.
Yeah, they do like these plays like in the water, which is like sounds like the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, because it kind of is. And then they have like, you know, a beauty pageant and all that stuff. But it's also one of those weird things where no matter where you're from and whatever that tradition is, it does not sound weird growing up. And then explaining it to someone else later, you're like, man, we really were in a cult.
Oh, yeah. I noticed that with a lot of different things that I'm explaining about my hometown or anything. Victoria, or like Inez, where I grew up, didn't really have anything like that, like a festival like that. But it was just a regular livestock show, you know?
Yeah. Well, I'm a big advocate of like you guys bringing back like the Stone Cold Steve Austin, whatever, I don't know, Royal Rumble in Victoria.
The Royal Rumble. I love it. Yeah, man. That's always the funniest thing to bring up. I'll like say it again. I said it in Clubhouse, but yeah, Stone Cold Steve Austin and like my freshman in high school algebra teacher dated like when they were in high school, and she always would show pictures about it, and like it got to the point where she talked about it a little too much, and we were like, okay, like just, I mean, let's just help me solve for X here,
Yeah, it's the now this
It's
is
living in that moment, but it's funny because like and like his like childhood home was like 5 minutes from mine. So it's just weird. It's something you don't really think about until you're in one of those conversations and you're like, oh yeah, Stone Cold was from my town. That's right.
yeah. I'm telling you, man, you get me in touch with the local commerce and we'll
You
figure
guys,
this out. So
yeah, like you guys need to act on this, man. Come on. I don't know. I hear like he doesn't like coming back. I don't know what that's all about, but that's just like what people have told me. So I'm just
man,
like, all right.
that's some ragweed, you're always 17 in your hometown stuff probably.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like he'd start body slamming people. He'd piss them off. You get him down here. You make him come back down here. So everybody's like, that's okay.
So people right now are probably going to go, man, you guys reference Clubhouse all the fucking time. But I wanted to bring up
are they not on board?
I hope so. Maybe like by the time this episode runs in a couple of weeks, people will be on and they'll feel included. But I wanted to bring
It'll
up
already be publicly traded by then.
I wanted to bring up how like we had that conversation about all those great '90s bands and great artists, and we were talking about Sons of the Desert. You've written with Drew Womack. Well, what is it like? I guess stepping into a room with him, who, you know a little bit more because like you've been a fan of Sons of the Desert, but like obviously not necessarily universally well known.
Right. Yeah, he was. And the funny thing is, I actually first learned about Drew because he has I think he still does, if I'm correct. Had or still has a residency at the Steiner Ranch Steakhouse, which is a really nice like steakhouse and venue up around Lake Travis in Austin. And my uncle lived, or still do live in that area, and would go like every time he played there. We're just huge fans of his. And around the time I was in like early high school and starting to play guitar and stuff, we'd always be up there visiting them. We'd come up here, and I even had shows in Austin by then. I was like 17 or something. Every once in a while, like little acoustic shows, but we'd go and see him, and he was great. And he would tell these stories of like all that he's really done, just right there on stage during his acoustic residency. And I just always thought it was really cool, and he was always really kind to us and everything like that. And obviously, like later, once I started doing it for real, I was like, hey, got to write with him a lot more, and he's always been super humble and kind to me, and he's just got these incredible stories. Like we were talking about all the songs that Sons of Desert, his band, were potentially going to record that ended up being recorded by other artists because of the labels giving them to other artists, and they became massive hits like Bless the Broken Road and Goodbye Earl, Hope You Dance. And Drew himself was already a writer up there, so he had a Kenny Chesney, She's Got It All. He had Got That Cut, which is an awesome song. And so he's had a lot of really cool stuff happen to himself as a writer before Sons of the Desert. But yeah, man, and just hearing those kind of stories, and someone who's not really bitter about it still, he's just like telling the stories about how that's just the process of the town and the business, and who's also like happy with where he's at. And like it's just really cool to really take in.
Yeah. Is it one of those things where, you have to remind them like, hey, this is a 17-year-old me? Or
Yeah.
did he already kind of recognize you, that kind of thing?
Yeah, no, I feel like I freaked him out a little bit because I was like, dude, I've been a fan of yours for a long time, like since I was even before that, and so you're influencing guys, more guys than you realize that are younger and taking this thing on, because I legit think that he has like one of the best voices in general. And anytime he's done stuff as an artist too, it's been freaking awesome. Like he put out a record in I think like 2010 or something, just kind of a one-off, like put a record out that Radney Foster produced, and he co-wrote a lot with him. And I mean, that record is fantastic. I think it's like Sunshine to Rain or something is what it's called. But yeah, man, he's awesome.
Yeah, I think like there's something to, obviously it's great to take advice from someone who has had that, I don't know, like an interesting trajectory as a career, because obviously they're on the cusp of being a breakout band, but then of course, setbacks and all that kind of stuff. But then I do feel like he's having like a resurgence as a solo artist and as at least as a co-writer and stuff right now, even though he's been doing it for a while. I feel like you hear his name being mentioned on a lot of records or in big deals happening down here in Texas now, a lot more than you did, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So I think that's always like a great thing to always keep in mind, that it's not always going to be just, straight to the top.
Everybody has a different path in this of their lives. Even guys like him that you look up to a lot as an artist, and then somebody over here next to you's never heard of. It's just like, it's funny because like, yeah, everybody got different, and he is killing it on the background vocals game, man. He's ending up being the guy that everybody's shooting their records over to get background vocals done, and he just does it all in his little studio in his house. It's pretty cool to watch. He did some on my record as well, he and West Hightower, but he did the background vocals to Happy Home too. So yeah, he kills it.
Yeah. Well, yesterday, I'm going to get you out on this one right here. Yesterday you mentioned Rascal Flatts. I think that there's a lot of like love-hate with that band. Early on you can see a lot of some really good stuff. I mentioned that song Fast Cars and Freedom being still like a great fucking song. So what song are you going to end up like, not necessarily cutting, but at least covering? Is there anything like you're going to be like, oh, I need to put this in the set list?
Man, I've been thinking about that a lot lately. I'm the worst with covers as far as like picking what isn't what's not cliche, what's not this or that, and it drives the band nuts because I'm just like, I overthink covers too much. But I don't know, man. If you have any suggestions, let me know, because I'd love to cover like a 90s country song, one that not only one that's good and somewhat recognizable, but that kind of fits our sound too, And like every once in a while, we'll do a medley with a couple different songs, and we were doing like throwing Brand New Man in there for a minute, or like You Look So Good in Love. So it's just finding that right cover and everything. But shoot me stuff. If there's anybody to ask, it's you. You know what I'm thinking about covering a Clay Walker song. I don't know which one, but I've been listening to a lot of Clay Walker again recently, and I'm like, God, he had some freaking bangers, man. And I got into listening to the episode that you did with him and Neon. I listened to about the first half of it, and then I had to move a set of drawers up in my new apartment down here in Austin. So
yeah, you've had like this, like the living vicariously through your move these last
yeah, that's right. I've been filling people in on Clubhouse about my move, and I tried to complain about it on Charlie's complaint room, and he wasn't having it. So I sent him a text afterwards to be like, so you're going to come to Austin tomorrow and help me move this set of drawers up the third floor, right?
So, okay. I've been suggesting these as covers for a minute now. They're both not necessarily upbeat songs, but Diamond Rio's Mama Don't Forget to Pray for Me and Night Is Falling in My Heart. Those are like grade A prime songs to be covered. So I'll throw those into the circle.
Dude, when you brought up, we were talking about 90s country bands, and you brought up Ricochet. I forgot about them, dude. I was like, and it was on the tip of my tongue, like, what song were they the biggest for? And it was like Daddy's Money. And I was listening to it again, and I was like, oh yeah, there was something about like the harmonies back then, like it was really popular for a 90s country band to have an okay lead singer. Like, no, he was good, no one to really write home about though. But then just like these incredible, huge harmonies behind you, I mean, it was a vibe, that sound,
Yeah, the harmony game with all these like '90s groups is just different level because like even if you look at like Restless Heart, those guys like all five guys sing, and you know they may not all five sing on like one song, but like their voices are all strong enough where like three or four of them can work on a song, and I mean they're all able to do it live, which is also just another thing that you know it's one thing to like get it right in the studio and like kind of figure it out and do all the work, the production, quote unquote, to make it sound good. But then being able to do it live is something totally different, and that's all like I think I don't know. I'm half convinced that it's all luck, and like half convinced that it's all just like in a massive amount of work. So
Yeah, it really is, and that's what I was wondering too. Like, where do they find these guys? Like, all the guys in the band freaking have great voices, you know. And I've learned about, especially with harmonies too. It's hilarious. Harmonies I've never been able to really wrap my head around as far as like myself as a harmony singer, because I can't do harmonies, and a lot of lead singers can't, or like you know like when you're singing in the front vocals or whatever. But it's hilarious to hear like a dude like in your band or in anybody's band or somebody who has an okay kind of decent voice when they sing lead, but then just these incredible harmonies and like. And, well, Drew's not a great example because he's got a great lead voice, but like someone like Wes Hightower, he sang on every one of George Strait's records. His voice is good. His like lead when he's singing lead or whatever, but damn, if he isn't the best harmony vocal singer in the game, it's a weird thing to wrap your head around.
Yeah, for sure. Also, as far as Ricochet goes, throw another one in the hat. What Do I Know? That was like another like top 10. It's not like Daddy's Money iconic, but What Do I Know is like a fucking great song too. So
I don't recognize it from the title. I'm gonna need to go and check it out.
Yeah, go check it out here in like 2 seconds.
Who covered or who recorded Ghost in This House? Is that Diamond Rio?
No,
or
that's Shenandoah. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that one the other day too, and I was like, damn.
Yeah, for sure. They're all so damn like like, there's this like organic aspect of it that it's not like a complete wall of sound to it, but there's that aspect to it where it's so full and so big and rich, and not to like name drop Big and Rich right there, but
I wouldn't be surprised if that was the next sound, because like mainstream country is going after that era of 90s country where I guess this is like early 90s country, like between Luke Combs and John Party, and like they're really going after like the Brooks and Dunn and
the
like
neo-traditional stuff,
neo-traditional kind of sound. But I wouldn't be surprised if like that big harmonies, that more of the Diamond Rio Shenandoah sound ended up getting popular again. Like some guys started doing that again. That would be cool. I don't know who would, but that would be kind of a neat sound revival to come back in mainstream eye.
Yeah, who's kind of doing that right now is I don't think they're necessarily looking for Nashville to come back them or anything like that. I'm sure like if the right deal came, it would work. But Zane Williams and his bunch doing Wilder.
That's
Blue.
A good point. Yeah, Wilder Blue. That's true. They are kind of going with that sound.
Those harmonies are all so rich, and yeah, it's exactly what we've been talking about.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they have gotten record deals, or not. I guess at least people knocking on the door a little bit.
Yeah, it's all about the right people to work with. That's in anything, I guess. But yeah, man, it's been great talking with you. We'll have to do this again sometime.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's always a pleasure, man.
Yeah, well, I guess I'll see you sometime on the old clubhouse.
Hey, you just let me know. I'll see you there. Okay.
All right, that is it for this one. Be sure to check out Mason's upcoming record, Mason Lively, out this Friday. Go check out the Patreon, the merch store, all of that stuff. Go stop by our presenting partners over at the Blue Light Live, Desert Door, Hot Damn Coffee, and Wild Gallery. And yeah, I'll see y'all later this week for another episode.